Welcome to the Imagination Factory. I'm Sarah.
I'm Keith.
We are going to be working on what we started in the last few episodes, where we are looking at our treasure with our ogre and our thieves partners. We're still deciding exactly who we have here, but we're going to continue working on this concept.
I'm now going back in and refining it. I'm not sure how far we're going to go with this, like whether it's going to be a rough looking illustration at the end of the day or something a little bit more refined. It's always however long it takes me to get there. So, right now I kind of feel like I'm just still trying to figure out the, shapes, making sure that everything, like the composition is working, and now maybe refining a little bit more like the shape of the anatomy of the ogre, the shape of the ogre, making sure that uh all of characters are doing something kind of interesting, making sure that like that treasure is a little bit more pronounced, which actually reminds me, I think I want to uh move this character a little bit over here, uh, so that you've got maybe them a little bit smaller too, so that you have that whatever this treasure shaped box, it's going to just be a little bit more pronounced. Right.
Yeah, absolutely. And the interesting thing with this particular illustration is we started with the word treasure, and all of this has come out of that. So one of the things we were working on, in the previous episodes was who are these characters and what is the treasure and why do they want it? And we went through a number of scenarios, whether or not these guys were a team trying to steal it from the ogre, or each one was every man for himself, and the ogre happened to get it first and fell asleep, and now they're all trying to steal it back, which was actually kind of a direction that I liked. I liked the idea that they all came from different places for different reasons, and everybody wanted this treasure. And I feel like we're kind of leaning into that a bit too, where you've got sort of the boat in the distance, that one of them came in a ship, maybe one of them came right out of the water, one of them came from land, to try and sort of get this treasure and be the first one to get it back to whatever their kingdom happened to be. And then our ogre, who fell asleep on the beach with a shark in his hand, possibly a snack. We don't know what it was. But it's just, there's so much texture and so many elements to the story, that now, as Keith's starting to refine the illustration, we can start to kind of build out these characters a little bit more, like who each of these guys are and where they came from.
And I think we had also said, well, one of the things I had said was, what if the ogre is actually like a kid and
Mm.
somehow turned into this creature? So if anybody has any ideas, if they're watching now, feel free and give us your suggestions as to what you think this is, or what you think it could be. And, like we can always try to add it to what we're doing here. Right.
Well, it's actually a really interesting thing, like the comment of the ogre being a kid, that maybe the treasure is something that it's got like a magical ability to turn you into something that you always wanted to be, right? Almost like a genie in a lamp
Mm.
kind of
Oh, yeah.
situation. So it was a kid that always wanted to be big and fierce and accidentally turned himself into an ogre, right? And then maybe they're all trying to get their hands on it to get their wish granted. But right now, the child ogre is the one that currently has hold of it, and each of them is trying to get it to, maybe one of them wants to save their kingdom, and another one, just wants riches, and another, maybe they all have different reasons for wanting it, but it was the child who got their hands on it first, turned himself into an ogre, and then over ogred himself and passed out.
Now, it would be interesting if they actually don't realize that yet. Like they haven't figured out that the treasure, and it could be that the treasure changes depending on who gets it. Like, so maybe
Mhm.
they know that the treasure uh changed from what it was initially, but they don't realize yet that the person who actually has the treasure can change themselves too. Like maybe it's like at first it's getting more and more powerful. The treasure,
Yeah.
whatever this thing is starting to take hold of these characters more and more. So, maybe even they were it was more friendly competition, and it's starting to get a little bit more like cutthroat. Like they're not necessarily at a place where they're going to hurt each other, but maybe it's getting close to that.
Yeah, I love that, and I love, like, the idea that maybe this treasure has the transformative quality, but it takes you too literally or takes it the wrong way, right? Like, I think of The Simpsons with the monkey's paw, and no matter what they wished for, it was terrible, right? Like, everything it's like, "We want world peace," and it was awful because then the aliens invaded and they weren't prepared. So maybe this is the same idea, like, he's like, "I wanna be big and strong," and it turned him into, like, this huge ogre that's like blundering around and passing out on the beach as opposed to just making him a big, big strong adult, which is what he actually wanted. So that could be too, like they're all trying to get this treasure and not actually realizing the power that it has because it keeps feeding off their energies and growing. And they don't know they don't realize what it will do to them. Like they potentially don't know that this ogre was the child, right? Like they could just have arrived being like, oh, good, it's a sleeping ogre. We can get it from him, not knowing that it's transformed this child into this beast.
So I imagine like the one character that's landed on the ground there maybe gets a little bit of distance to see, or maybe one of the characters like notices like a particular thing that only the kid had, like a little
Mm,
like beauty mark or something that they're like looking at it going, why does that look so familiar?
yeah.
And they're realizing so that while they're fighting each other, that maybe two of them are fighting each other, the third one's looking and going, wait a second, I recognize that was Sanson's ring or something.
Yeah.
And you know that's inscribed like that. I remember thinking I wanted to try to steal it, but I couldn't get it off his finger or something like
Yeah.
that, right?
Well, yeah, it's exactly like there could be something about like even if it was like, the child had some really like a unique hair thing, right? Like they had like black hair with like a, completely white streak in it. And that's something that this ogre has. And it's one of those things that you're like, I've not seen too many people with that. So it's a bit of a coincidence that this ogre looks a lot like that child did. And it could be too that the treasure has a legend that like, makes your wildest dreams a reality or something, which they're assuming is all good, not realizing that that could be your wildest dreams aren't necessarily exactly what you want. So they're all clamoring to be the next, not realizing exactly what they're getting themselves into.
Yeah. Now, of course, this could be like this is I've mentioned before, very like One Piece, right? It's got it's
Mhm.
got that um familiarity with like different genres of, like you may have one of the characters that comes from somewhere and like a samurai type
Yeah.
of, feudal scenario. You got somebody that's more pirate like, maybe somebody that lives underwater,
Yep.
uh, something like that where um, it mashes up a whole bunch of different things to make these characters very unique to wherever they're from, or unique to where I guess more unique to the people that are with them because they
Mhm.
come from these different nations that are all very unique to to themselves.
And I think that makes it really broad, right? So it's not just like, this one fairy tale kingdom but it's like they've come from everywhere for this treasure. You've heard of it far and wide kind of situation. And it gives us these three distinct characters, which you'd already, looking at the initial illustration, you'd already created, three very different looking characters. So I think it's fair to assume that they did come from different places with different purposes to get this treasure, and then adding that element of the ogre being, the local child who got their hands on it kind of thing, is a really fun detail of them sort of discovering, is this treasure really what we want?
Yeah, well, that's right. Like, and if everyone has like different reasons for um being there, like
Hmm.
one of them is purely for out for themselves to, enrich. themselves, and they're, you always have that character that's like very selfish,
Yeah.
and you find out like where they came from, and you realize they're doing it for more noble reasons or something like that. Then you've got that character that's, you know, very good, right? They're doing
Mhm.
it to save their village or something. Um, you've got your character that's like, oh, I'm just doing this for the fun of it. I don't really have any.
Yeah, I just like to win.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Uh,
yeah, it could be the underwater character is trying to, like, their world is dying. They need to save the coral, that kind of situation. So it's trying to do it for, those purposes. The pirate could be very piratey, could just be coming for the thrill of the hunt and just wants to get the treasure. And then we could have, our third one who is doing it to, for like to save themselves or someone that they care about that's ill or, something like that. So they all have sort of very different purposes to get there. But again, the treasure is more than meets the eye.
so let me ask you, when it comes to creating characters that are kind of stereotypes of them, like kind of what we're
Mhm.
going through, how do you find ways to make them stand out, to be a little bit more unique, like to be a little bit more individual? Do you have like certain formulas you try to use where you're like, okay, I'm going to take like write up a bunch of words, clip them up, and then put them into a bag and like pull out different words and see what kind of weird combinations like do.
Yeah, I mean, it's always a really interesting dilemma, right? When you are working within things that are sort of known, like a stereotype of some kind, how much you stick to what people are expecting and how much you turn it on its head. And I think that part of it is there has to be purpose to it, right? I think just turning every stereotype on its head for the sake of it is also not great. Right. So it's like if everything is completely the opposite just for the sake of not being what you expected it to be. But I think it's almost more how do you give depth to the characters, right? So a pirate being piratey isn't a bad thing, but him being piratey, but also being nervous or, having a little bit of like almost like OCD where he's got to do things in a certain way. Otherwise, he's worried about what that's going to do to the future of his ship because he's
Mhm.
superstitious, right? Like, so I think there's always ways to inject realness and a true character without completely throwing out every stereotype because people like comfort too, right? Like if you see a
Mm.
pirate and he's like 100% the good guy and this and that, it's like, well, that's not really a pirate. That's just more a sailor. So it's like, okay, he really is a pirate and he is coming to steal the treasure because that's what pirates do. But he's doing it in a way to, give him a little bit more interest that it is actually like he knows that if he doesn't get there before the other pirate, then it'll land in bad hands and curse the land or whatever it is. So I think sometimes it's about knowing the stereotype and deciding, do you want to push against it with a good reason? Or do you want to lean into it, but just give more depth to the character? And that's usually how I look at it. Because sometimes it does make sense to have a pirate be a pirate. And other times it also makes sense to just make them a really interesting pirate. Like you think of like a Jack Sparrow, right? Like
Mhm.
he was very much a pirate, but he was a pirate with a lot of, depth and interest to him. But at his heart, he was what you would think a pirate was.
Right. Yeah. So in that case, he just went for like, how can I, what's, somebody that I can use as a reference? And he's like, Keith Richards, like,
Yeah. So
uh,
now it's an interesting version of a pirate, but it's still at the heart. You believe that this is a pirate, right? Still has a pirate ship, still kind of talks like a pirate, still out to, me first mentality, but just a more nuanced, layered version of that versus completely being like, well, he's a pirate, but he's a very good pirate who, loves everybody and wants to protect the land. It's like, well, now he's not a pirate anymore. Right?
right.
So I think there's elements where you can know what this character is classically thought of as, and then make a really interesting version of that person.
Hmm. Yeah. So then I'll take, let's see, this character here. Well, I don't know if but like so far, none of them are necessarily pirates per se, but this guy here, he's got like I'm going to give him a patch or something. All right, he's got the hat. So maybe more, maybe not so much a pirate as much as like just like some kind of like could be a marauder type
Yeah,
or
I mean, he could just be someone who came in via a ship. Doesn't have to be a pirate. You just be a, a sailor who came to this island that way and left his ship kind of moored out into the bay. Not a pirate at all.
hmm yeah, or maybe I'll give him goggles of some sort. Just they're kind of telling me what they need to be, just
Yeah.
depending on the shapes and like I actually drew a little sailor cap on the shark for whatever reason. I'm not sure what that's going to be about, but you know,
Well, and you know what? That the shark. Actually, we had Paul commented on about the shark as well. It's just, it was such a silly thing that just my brain was like, that looks like a shark. And it's become such an intriguing element of this image. And I love it.
yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, it's hey hey Paul. So that's the kind of stuff that I like to when I'm drawing something that if it just looks like something, I'm like, let's lean into it. Let's see what that actually is going to be. And then having you here going, oh, that's blah blah blah. I'm like, it is now
Now it's just a shark.
because I didn't think that at all, but you know, I could
Well,
see.
again, it just, I don't know why my brain just, that's what it pictured. And we just had a comment as well from Paul asking if there's magic in the world, seeing the shark being a fun side character that maybe talks and tells jokes. And I love that. Like that animal sidekick that's kind of there. And it's like, it's almost like his little pet. He pulled it out of the water and it's like, excuse me, if you're going to have me on land, at least get me some fish or whatever. Like it's got little attitude.
Yeah,
Um, and his hat.
right. Or it could be what if like the ogre, the boy turned into ogre. What if like his companion turned into the shark, right? So we don't know, like that could be, uh, who knows what it is? Like maybe it's his like otter companion or something, or
Well, I love that because if it was the wish, let's say, to be, big and strong and tough, and like maybe he had a little, like, a little hamster, something really cute that like sat on his shoulder. And as he turned into the ogre, the hamster turned into this like, massive shark. And he's like, how did this happen? It's like,
yeah,
I guess is what we do now, right? Like it's like everything kind of went awry where they both just wanted to be, bigger and a little fiercer. And instead they turned into this lovely duo.
yeah, exactly. It kind of backfired because like the shark,
Exactly.
the sharks go or the hamster, the guinea pig or whatever it's going to be is
Yeah.
like, I can't breathe,
Yeah, it's like, well,
you
we'll go
know.
near the ocean. I'll dip you in. It's like, what? Yeah. And yeah, those are the kinds of things where it's, again, it was such a random element and it turned into what's becoming a bit of a center of this piece.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, that's the fun part of doing these collaborations is it's you're creating something that you wouldn't have thought of necessarily on your own, and then something is said, and you're like, oh, okay, let's go for it, right? Why not? And I do like that kind of that's because one of the things about being very doodly, when in my style, I'm very you can see it's very loose, it's very
Mhm.
has a bit of a organic quality to it. It's not necessarily super structured, at least initially. It's always very much like more gut than it is um and that's not always the case, but oftentimes when I'm most free, when I'm just trying to like play, I make it super gestural and doodly and scribbly. And so what ends up happening is that you see things that you wouldn't have thought of. That's why I teach a doodling class because doodling does do that where you get to
Mhm.
unlock uh imagery that you didn't even realize you can draw, right? That you'd never even tried drawing before. And all of a sudden you're like, oh, I didn't know I can draw this shark. And then, you've created something that now can exist as this new character that in a million years, if you had tried to think of something to do, you wouldn't have thought of it, right?
And that is a fair comment. I think that if you were wondering what could be in this ogre's hand, I don't think a shark was going to be top of your list of what you would have put in this ogre's hand. And here we are.
Yeah,
But I love that because I do think that doodling is one of those skills that not enough people do. I think that a lot of people, when they're starting to create, have this need to produce a finished product right away, right? To have
yeah,
something that looks exactly like what it's supposed to look like from the get go, right? Like a face that looks exactly like a face and a perfectly proportioned body and everything like done on that first stroke. Whereas, if you start with doodles and take the pressure off yourself, you're just like, I'm just doodling. Whatever comes out of this, I don't know what it's going to be. That is such a great skill for people to embrace and take the pressure off themselves to start with perfection because that is really, really hard to do.